They made me sit in the garage. Not because there weren't enough chairs inside. Not because I'd asked for a moment to myself. But because they didn't want me in the family photos. Just sit there and stay out of the way, Aunt Rebecca said sharply, her red dress brushing past me as she strutted toward the living room. We've got real guests arriving. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I didn't say a word. Not when my uncle closed the sliding door. Not when my own mother avoided my eyes. Not even when my cousin April walked in, saw me, laughed, and said, "Why are you still here?" The catering crew already left. I wasn't the help. I was family. But they'd stopped treating me like it years ago. Ever since Dad died and Mom fell apart. Ever since they realized I didn't have a future like the rest of their perfect kids in blazers and pearl earrings. I sat on the rusted metal chair beside a stack of cleaning buckets and a half-dead plant, watching them through the garage door's window. Laughing, hugging, toasting champagne like they owned the world. Like they owned this house. My hands clenched the hem of my skirt. It wasn't even a fancy party. Just a family celebration for my cousin Josh's real estate license. A stupid certificate, and they threw a whole party for it. But when I got my degree in interior design last year, after working 2 jobs to pay for night classes, they didn't even call. Not once. Not a card. Not a cake. Just silence. You're just the help, Aunt Rebecca had sneered last time she saw me. Someone has to clean the gutters, right? I didn't react. Because I had learned one thing very young. You never show your cards when you're sitting at the bottom. You let them laugh. You let them spit. And then, when the time is right, you break everything they thought they knew about you. Just then, the garage door creaked open. I looked up and froze. Grandpa. He stood there in his old brown jacket, the one he always wore to the post office. His cane tapped the concrete once, twice, like he was measuring the silence. His eyes scanned the cluttered room, the metal shelves, the mop bucket. Then they landed on me. I stood quickly, brushing off my skirt. Grandpa. But he lifted a hand, silencing me. Then he turned and walked into the main house. I peeked through the window. The moment he stepped in, the whole room seemed to pause. Dad. Uncle Richard exclaimed. We didn't think you were coming. Grandpa didn't even blink. He looked around slowly, eyes narrowed like he was studying a crime scene. Whose idea? He said coldly. Was it to make my granddaughter sit in the garage? Everyone froze. I could feel the tension shoot through the house even from where I stood. Rebecca dropped her champagne glass. April's mouth hung open. My mom paled. Well, Aunt Rebecca laughed nervously. We just thought. You thought? Grandpa said, his voice low and sharp. You thought you'd shove the only person who actually lives in this house into the garage like a maid? Silence. He turned toward the door, and then his voice roared like thunder. Then you all can get out of her house. Gasps exploded like fireworks. What? My cousin Josh stammered. Her house? Grandpa, what are you? I signed the deed over to her 2 weeks ago, Grandpa said flatly. Every tile, every wall, every blade of grass outside. All hers. No, Aunt Rebecca whispered. That's impossible. It's legal, Grandpa snapped. Unlike the tax fraud you're barely hiding in your husband's construction company. You want me to keep talking, Rebecca? She stepped back like he'd slapped her. I opened the door slowly, not knowing if I was breathing or dreaming. Grandpa turned to me. Ally, he said. You don't have to be silent anymore. Not for them. I walked inside, and the silence was deafening. No one moved. They just stared. At the girl who used to bring the paper towels. The one who they made sit with the trash. The one they forgot had blood of the man who built this house running in her veins. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because the quiet power of standing there, chin up, with Grandpa beside me, that was enough to make every single one of them choke. And it was only the beginning. Nobody moved. Not even to blink. Aunt Rebecca's lip trembled slightly as if she were struggling to speak, but her ego, massive and polished like her diamond earrings, held her mouth shut. I stood still, my heart racing, but on the outside, I was a statue.
Calm.
Unbothered. Not even the old mop bucket clanging behind me could break the tension, as everyone realized the one person they'd tried to humiliate now held all the power. Grandpa walked past me, slow but steady, tapping his cane like a gavel with every step. "Ally," he said firmly, "I need you to do something for me." I turned toward him. "Yes, Grandpa." "Ask them to leave." I blinked. "All of them." He nodded. "This is your home now. No more pretending. Let's see how they like being treated like the help." My aunt gasped. "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious," Grandpa said. "You made my granddaughter sit in the garage like a stray animal. Now get out." Panic rippled across the room like someone had shattered a mirror. Uncle Richard moved first, stepping forward with that smug expression he always wore at family dinners. "Come on, Dad. You're just emotional. She's a kid. She's not ready to own a house." "She's 27 and owns her own business," Grandpa snapped. "What does Josh own?" "A LinkedIn profile." Josh's ears turned bright red. "And Richard," Grandpa continued, glaring at him, "you haven't made a mortgage payment on your own house in 6 months. Want me to tell everyone why?" Okay, let's not turn this into a whole thing." Richard backed off, his hand raised in defense. But Aunt Rebecca stepped forward, teeth bared. "You gave her this house?" she hissed. "After everything I've done for this family? All the years I spent taking care of you." Grandpa turned toward her slowly. "Taking care of me? You mean calling once a month to ask if I'm dead yet? You mean putting your mother in a second-rate facility because you didn't want her at your house? That shut her up. You think I don't know what you all say behind closed doors?" Grandpa asked, voice like ice. "You think I don't hear how you laugh at Ally? How you snub her because she cleans homes for a living because she wears sneakers instead of stilettos? Do you even realize she paid for your daughter's textbooks last semester when April's credit card got declined?" April's head snapped toward me. "You did that." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her face said enough: shock, guilt, and maybe a glimmer of shame. But I wasn't doing this for apologies. I wasn't doing it for justice. I was doing it because I was done. I took a breath, stepped forward, and said quietly, "You all heard him. Get out." No one moved. I repeated, louder this time, "Get
Out."
The silence was thick as honey, sticky, awkward, choking. Then, finally, they started moving. Grumbling. Huffing. But moving. Aunt Rebecca stormed toward the door like a queen stripped of her crown. "You'll regret this, Ally." I gave her a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "I already regretted letting you back in this house." One by one, they filed out, clutching their purses, their fake pride, and their champagne glasses. All except Mom. She stood in the back, next to the fireplace, her eyes heavy and unreadable. She hadn't said a word since Grandpa walked in. "Mom?" I asked softly. She looked up at me with trembling lips. "Why didn't you tell me?" I swallowed. "Would you have believed me?" Her silence said enough. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." And I believed her. But I didn't forgive her. Not yet. Some wounds don't stop bleeding just because someone says sorry. Some need time. And this house was full of old cuts. Grandpa gently touched my shoulder. "They'll be back, you know. Crawling. Smiling. Pretending none of this happened." "I know," I said quietly. "But they'll be standing on the other side of the door." He nodded. And then, for the first time in years, I walked into the living room, not as a guest. Not as the help. But as the owner. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just stood still and felt the power shift in my bones. And for once it felt like I belonged. But what I didn't know was, this house was only the first thing I was about to claim back from the people who had tried to break me. The next morning, the doorbell rang just as the sun touched the front steps. I hadn't even made my coffee. Still barefoot, I opened the door, only to be greeted by the last face I ever wanted to see this early, Uncle Richard, wearing a sheepish smile and holding a store-bought pie. "Hey, kiddo," he said, his voice trying too hard to sound casual. "I figured maybe we got off on the wrong foot yesterday." I stared at him. "The wrong foot? You people threw me into the garage like a dog." He let out a dry chuckle. "Yeah, okay, not our finest moment. But listen, family fights all the time. No big deal. Why don't we sit and talk like adults?" Before I could answer, Grandpa walked up behind me, cane tapping sharply. "If you think showing up with a pie is going to fix years of cruelty, you're more stupid than I thought," he said. Richard's face flushed. "I just thought." "You thought wrong. Get off her porch." Richard glanced at me again. "Ally, come on. You know how your aunt is, she gets dramatic. But we're family. We can't let some stupid party ruin everything." I folded my arms. "You didn't just ruin a party, Uncle Richard. You tried to erase me." His lips tightened. "So what now? You think you're above everyone because you own a house." "No," I said calmly. "I'm not above anyone. I just finally know I don't belong beneath you." With that, I shut the door in his face. I didn't even feel guilty, because what I hadn't told him was that I'd been planning this for over a year. I didn't just end up with Grandpa's house. I earned it. It started 12 months ago, when Grandpa got sick and I was the only one who showed up at the hospital. Every day, brushing his hair, bringing his favorite crackers, sitting beside him when he couldn't remember what year it was. Rebecca had called once, asking if he'd signed the will yet. Richard had texted, "Let me know when he kicks it." I'd told Grandpa everything. And one day, he grabbed my wrist with more strength than I thought he had left and said, "They don't deserve a dime." That was the day he started rewriting everything. Not just the will, but the future. I didn't tell a soul. I let them laugh at me. Let them treat me like the family intern. Let them walk past me like I was invisible. Because I knew they'd choke on their smug smiles the second the truth hit. And now they were the ones begging at my door. April called me later that afternoon. "I didn't know about the house," she said softly. "I swear." "I believe you," I said. "And I didn't know you paid for my books." "I didn't do it, so you'd owe me." There was a pause. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry, Ally. For real. I never stood up for you. I just followed Mom." That part stung. Because April and I were inseparable as kids. Before Rebecca turned her into a mirror. Still, I could hear something genuine in her voice. "Do you want to come over?" I asked. No crowd. Just coffee. April exhaled like she hadn't been breathing. "Yeah, I'd really like that." Small steps. Not everyone in that family was rotten, but the worst ones weren't done yet. 2 days later, I got a notice. A lawyer's notice. Filed by Aunt Rebecca, claiming that Grandpa wasn't of sound mind when he signed over the house. Claiming I manipulated him. Claiming I took advantage. I read every word with shaking hands. Then I walked straight to Grandpa's study and opened the safe. Inside were video recordings. Hundreds. Each one with a label. Rebecca visit February. Richard phone call, March. Ally daily care log. Grandpa had been documenting everything. He knew they'd try to steal what wasn't theirs. He knew they'd play dirty. And he'd left me a full arsenal. I smiled. Because the battle had just begun. And this time, I was ready to burn their lies to the ground. The courtroom smelled like old paper and cheap perfume. Rebecca sat 2 rows in front of me with her lawyer, a stiff man in a gray suit who looked like he'd rehearsed arrogance in the mirror. Her hands were clasped in her lap, painted nails trembling slightly. She kept stealing glances at me over her shoulder, as if expecting me to crack. But I didn't flinch. I sat straight. Calm. Dressed in black. No makeup. No theatrics. Just quiet, solid strength. Because I wasn't there to act. I was there to end this. "All rise," the clerk announced. The judge walked in. An older woman. Stern eyes. Sharp voice. No patience for nonsense. We all sat. Rebecca's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, We are here today to contest the legality of a property transfer made under suspicious circumstances. My client believes the defendant, Miss Alyssa Morgan, coerced her elderly grandfather into signing over his estate. I almost laughed at how perfectly rehearsed his fake concern sounded. Rebecca sniffed. He continued, the transfer occurred only months before the alleged victim was hospitalized and later diagnosed with early-stage dementia. We have reason to believe undue influence was applied. Alleged victim? The judge asked. Is Mr. Walter Morgan present? The courtroom door opened.
Cane.
Jacket. Calm rage in his eyes. Grandpa walked in slowly, each step echoing like a gunshot.
He sat beside me.
Nodded once at the judge. Then turned his head to Rebecca. Are you trying to bury me before I'm dead? Gasps rippled through the room. Even the judge blinked. Mr. Morgan, she said. Are you aware of the property transfer made to Miss Morgan? Yes, Grandpa said clearly. I signed every paper myself. No confusion. No pressure. I initiated it. And your mental state at the time? Sharp enough to know exactly what I was doing. I transferred that house because Ally is the only one in this family who didn't abandon me. The judge's gaze sharpened. Do you have evidence of this? Grandpa smiled. I reached into my bag and handed the judge a USB drive. Inside were clips. Dozens. Clips of Rebecca ignoring Grandpa's calls. Of Richard talking about dumping the old man in a home. Of me feeding Grandpa, giving him meds, laughing with him. The judge watched the first two clips. That's all it took. She removed her glasses. This isn't a courtroom drama. This is a clear and documented case of resentment dressed as legal concern. She turned to Rebecca's lawyer. Motion denied. If you want to file again, come with actual evidence next time. Rebecca stood up sharply. You can't do this to me. That house should have been mine. The judge didn't even look at her. Court is adjourned. I stood slowly, turned to my aunt and said, You never wanted the house. You wanted control. And now you have none. She looked like she wanted to hit me, but instead, she stormed out. Outside the courtroom, April was waiting. I'm so sorry, Ally, she said again, hugging me tightly. I don't know how she turned out this way. She chose it, I whispered. We all choose who we become. Grandpa and I walked to the car together. Slowly, quietly. I could feel the weight of his exhaustion in every step. I've been waiting a long time to see justice, he said. It's not justice yet, I said. This was just round one. He gave me a sly smile. You've got my blood in you, girl. I know you'll finish what I couldn't. Back at the house, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, lawyers, old family friends. People suddenly curious about the granddaughter everyone thought was just a forgotten name. But I didn't care about that. I cared about the paper I pulled from the safe that night. Grandpa's final letter to me. Ally, if you're reading this, I probably had to remind the world what you're made of. You've been treated like nothing for so long, even you forgot you were something. But not me. Never me. You're not the help. You're not the extra seat. You're the heart of this family, whether they like it or not. Now take what's yours. And don't you ever sit in the garage again. Tears blurred the ink. But they didn't fall. Because I wasn't done yet. One more storm was coming. And I was walking right into it, with my chin up and my fists ready. 3 weeks later, the family tried to act like nothing had happened. I got a text from Cousin Josh. Big dinner next Saturday at Aunt Rebecca's. You should come. Let's fix this whole mess. Fix? They wanted me to show up, sit quietly, smile, and let it all blow over. But I wasn't that girl anymore. Still, I replied. Sure. I'll be there. When I arrived, every head turned. They didn't expect me to actually walk in. They especially didn't expect me to be wearing the same emerald dress Rebecca had once called cheap. Only now, it fit me like armor. Aunt Rebecca barely smiled. Glad you could make it. I nodded. Wouldn't miss it. The dinner table was long. Everyone in their usual seats. They left the end for me, like I was still the leftover guest. But this time, I pulled out the chair at the head of the table and sat down. Forks paused midair. Uncle Richard frowned. That's Dad's spot. Grandpa walked in behind me. Not anymore. He sat next to me, without another word. Aunt Rebecca cleared her throat. So, we thought maybe we could just start fresh. Put all this behind us. I smiled politely. That depends. Did you return the letter you stole from Grandpa's study? Her face turned white. What letter? I have the security footage. Dead silence. And I added, I've already filed a restraining order. One more false move, and the house isn't the only thing you'll lose. No one dared speak. I looked at each of them, every cousin, every aunt, every fake smile, and said, You made me sit in the garage like a stranger in my own bloodline. But I remembered something you all forgot. Blood doesn't make you family. Loyalty does. I stood slowly. I'm not here to play nice. I'm here to let you know. The girl you pushed aside? She's never sitting in the shadows again. Then I looked at Grandpa. He raised his glass. To the one who was never just the help. They all sat frozen. And I walked out, heels sharp on the tile, heart steady. Outside, the night felt lighter. The air felt mine, because they had pushed me down for years. But the thing they didn't realize? The help they mocked, now owned the house they'd built their pride in. And she wasn't giving it back.